Hello and welcome to 100 Huntley Street. I'm Reynolds Names.
And I'm Rhonda Glenn.
And it's June the 1st. We were just standing here saying, it's June the 1st.
Where did that month go? June the 1st, also known as payday.
Really?
That's right.
Okay.
And my husband is away. He's being ordained this Sunday, so he is away at a pre-ordination retreat. So I have big plans for my paycheck now that I don't have any supervision. So.
Oh, my. But congratulations to Ray David.
Oh, we're very, very excited, very pleased. He's going to be ordained into the Anglican Church, and we're just so excited and so pleased. It is really strange. I said yesterday that God sometimes works in unexpected ways. I think many times he works in unexpected ways.
Oh, yes.
This was an unexpected journey for both of us, but we couldn't be happier with the final destination.
Ah, that's super. Well, Ron and Ann aren't here today, but they're in a very important location in our land. They're in Ottawa. David Maines is there as well, and they are all together at the National Prayer Breakfast, gathering together with many parliamentarians, and I'm sure God's smile of approval is upon what they're doing. So for those of you that are watching 100 Huntley Street early morning, you can certainly pray along with them, as right now they're gathering for prayer. And if you're watching this later on in the evening, just know that this is a day covered in prayer from Parliament Hill, and they're praying that God will have dominion from sea to sea in this land. Yeah.
That's a good prayer, good prayer. Well, later in the program, we're going to hear from B.J. McKelvie. He's going to share his music and his story. And Reynolds, he has one of the most amazing stories. He was, growing up, talented sound engineer. He had his whole life ahead of him. The future looked bright, but he was plagued with depression. And he was on prescription medication. It didn't help. He decided to commit suicide. He actually stepped over that threshold that separates life and death. And he had an experience on the other side.
My.
Frightening experience on the other side. And he'll tell you about that later in the hour.
We also have Norm McLaren, of course, and we've got You've Got Mail with Dr. Grant Mullen peering into our very being, as he can do, and just kind of share some things that,
speaking of something that's
now I
frightening.
understand. We get to understand ourselves, so that's Grant Mullen. He's with us. But keep tuned in. We have a lot of Huntley Street coming your way this hour.
Christian music changed the life of my guest today. B.J. McKelvie made the decision to follow Jesus when he agreed to produce a Christian Christmas show for a local radio host. Now, spending hour after hour in the sound booth, listening to those songs and those words opened his eyes to a whole new reality. Now it's Reverend B.J. McKelvie, and he's a full-time music minister and worship leader, and he's here today to share his music and his story. Here he is with a beautiful song, Promised Land.
Now there's a mama kneeling by the bedside. Her sweet baby's barely hanging on to life. Tears are flowing and she don't know what to do. She's tired and worn, but she knows the truth. Oh, she falls to her knees and cries. I don't belong here. I belong in the promised land. I'm going through, and that's where I'm going. With the words to free my mind, taking what is mine. I don't belong here. I belong in the promised land. I'm going through, and that's where I'm going. With the words to free my mind, taking what is mine in the promised land.
Well, as I mentioned a moment ago, B.J. McKelvie decided to become a follower of Jesus after agreeing to produce a Christian Christmas show. But his faith journey actually began a couple of years before that. Although a talented sound engineer with a bright future ahead of him, B.J. was plagued by depression. Things got so bad he decided to commit suicide and almost succeeded. At the hospital, his heart stopped twice, and B.J. stepped over the threshold that separates life and death. He's here to tell us all about it. Please welcome once again Reverend B.J. McKelvie to 100 Huntley Street. B.J., that was absolutely beautiful.
Thank you.
Take us back to that time in your life. You had such a bright future. Well, you still have a bright future ahead of you, but things on the outside couldn't have looked better. You were doing, the career that you loved. You had a great job lined up, and yet you were so tormented by depression.
I was about 21 years old, and I had just come out of college and had a great career ready to go. I didn't tell anybody I was depressed. I didn't know.
Right.
I was in our summer cottage, and I had a sore throat, so I went to this family doctor, and on the wall was a list, and on this list it had all these things. If you have this symptom, and it was as long as my arm, and I said, I've got all those. So then you're dealing with depression. So I told the doctor, and she gave me some medication. I still didn't tell anybody that I even had the medication, that I was dealing with this. So I went back, and it was in our summer cottage. And it was a couple of days later, and it overwhelmed me. Because I was a proud person before, kind of mocked people, with depression. I said, just pull it together. So I was really embarrassed to tell anybody. So it was that night, a couple of nights later, it overwhelmed me. I decided it was very spontaneous, but I decided to take all these medicines. I didn't want to live anymore. So I got up.
At 21.
At 21. And I got up and I said, well, I'm going to take these pills. I'm going to take them 2 at a time, and I'm going to take only so many, just enough. I don't know where I got just enough from. I do now, but I was going to take just enough. I said, because if they put too many will make me sick.
Right.
So I'll take just enough so they can't pump my stomach.
You're very serious. This was not a suicide attempt.
No,
You were very serious.
I was very serious about it. I didn't want to live anymore. And so after that, I laid down after I took these pills, and nothing happened for about 20 minutes. So then I got up and I found some more prescription pills, sleeping pills that were there. And I took those 2 at a time, and I took just enough. And then I remember laying down, and the last thing that I said, because I believed in God, didn't know Jesus, but I believed in God. I said, Lord, I actually didn't say Lord, I said God. I said, God, please forgive me for what I've just done. And then I went to sleep. And that was the last thing I remember, was saying that. And suddenly, I guess to preamble the story, my mom, I was supposed to start a new job the next day. My mom got up, and in the morning an alarm clock was going off, and she found me laying there, and I guess I was kind of gray and blue, and I guess I had left a note, so she saw the note. And we were probably 60 miles outside from the nearest hospital. So they got me in the car, and they took me over to this country doctor, and she said, you need to get him to the hospital right away. He's in bad shape. By the time we got there, they tried to perform CPR on the way down. They couldn't. My jaw had locked. And when I got into the hospital, the first time, I guess my heart had stopped. And they got me back, and then the second time, they didn't get me back. My heart had stopped again, and said he's too deep, he's gone. At the time, they were telling my parents that. Suddenly, I appeared. If I could, just appeared, and I was looking at a sink.
That's your next memory. After saying, God, forgive me for what I've just done, your next memory is standing in a hospital room.
Yeah. I remember I appeared, and I was looking at a sink, and it just kind of appeared, and I said, what? And I started to look around, and I realized where I was. And a nurse kind of blew by me, and I thought, boy, she was rude, because it's like she didn't even see me. She just rushed right on by. And I looked over, and I could see my brother and sister run by, and I could see my mom and dad, and they were looking, and I realized who was in the bed. It was me. And just as I saw myself in the bed, I saw this black diamond form under the bed, and I went over and I went down. And suddenly, it was pitch black. It was totally, there was no ground, there was no sky, there was, if you could imagine nowhere or nothing, that's where I was. And when I was there, it took me a little bit to realize what was going on. And I looked over, and it was almost like I saw a window. And on the other side of this window, I could see my parents, and I could see my family, and they were still there. And all I wanted to do at this point, I have a hard time getting through this point, I wanted to get to tell them, I didn't mean to do this. I'm so sorry. Because I realized that it was real. Where I was real. The only light there was when I held up my hand, and I could see my hand. And that was the only thing I could see. So there was no ground. I was nowhere. And I went to walk forward, and I couldn't. And I wanted to tell my parents, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to do this. And then the window started to fade away. And as it faded away, I knew that this was forever. I've talked to other people that have crossed that line, and they get that sense of eternity. And I can't explain, but it was eternity. And I heard this angry, angry, angry voice, suddenly vicious. It was huge. This voice was, and it came from behind me, and I turned, and I couldn't see it. And it said, those who commit suicide go nowhere. It said, you're not getting a second chance. And I thought, this is real. I'm here, and I've done it. And then this, I can't say torment, like there weren't flames or anything, but the separation. I knew I wasn't going to be able to see anybody ever again. I was so alone. And it was horrific, just this separation. There was no physical pain, because I couldn't feel anything. But it was this mental, of being so alone and knowing that I was there forever. And then this voice came on. It seemed quite a while went by. This voice came on again. It said, you're not getting a second chance. It was still angry. And I turned, and I still couldn't see it. So I finally said, okay, I've done it. I'm here. And I said, I might as well accept it. And once I started to accept that I was there, I realized that I was there for a long time. And then suddenly, just as angry as this voice was, and mad, it was so gentle. It was so kind. And it came back and it said, you're not getting a second chance, but a new beginning. And then my next memory was I woke up in the hospital with my sister at my feet, and that I had a new beginning.
And that started your spiritual search, but it wasn't until a couple of years later that you found what you were looking for. You were looking for God, sometimes in all the wrong places, often in all the wrong places. Tell us about that experience of producing this Christian Christmas show and just listening to these words over and over again and just realizing, wow, that's what I've been searching for.
That was it.
That's what it meant, that experience I had 2 years ago in the hospital.
A local radio producer, Don Mabey, came in, and the funny thing was, I had been hearing this guy on the radio. I was working in another studio, and I'm never starstruck. I've worked with a lot of people, and I would hear this voice. He would do the Weekend Time Machine, and I thought, oh, I would love to meet this guy. And I don't know what it was about his voice. I do now, but so I had my studio, and one of my employees says, Don Mabey came by today, and I said, Don Mabey? He said, yeah, and I said, wow. And he said, he wants to talk to you. So he came in and he asked me, he said, this Christmas, he said, I need to do a 12-hour or 6-hour Christmas show.
Wow.
He said, can you produce it?
That's a lot of exposure to the Christian message.
That is. Because for every hour of show, it was about 3 hours of producing. And he said, but here's the catch. He said, can you produce it? I said, yeah, sure. He said, I need it done for free. I said, oh, for free. I said yes, and I shook my head. I thought,
why did I say yes?
Yeah, I said, what did I say? But I did. And then it took me longer than I thought. So I got this took about 40 hours, and I got this Christian show produced. And it was a hit. At Christmas time, it went well. So he came back again. And he said, look, he said, I have a weekend show. He said, that goes every weekend. He said, it's 6 hours. He said, can you produce this? Okay. For free, he said. Okay, so it was for free again. And I did it. I found myself saying yes. And this would have cost thousands of dollars.
Oh, absolutely.
And he did this one voice liner, and it kept saying the messages in the music. And I was spending hours with myself in this music, hours and hours on end. In there, I was hearing little things that had happened to me, too, as well. And so one day he finally comes in, this probably 3 or 4 weeks later. He says, how you doing? I said, sit down. And he says, I said, I've got questions. And it had just got to me, and he said, well, what do you want to know? I said, first, what is this message about? And I said, who's Jesus? And he took the next 3 or 4 hours and just ministered to me. And I went home and gave my heart to the Lord.
And never looked back.
Never looked back.
Well, BJ, I'll let you make your way over to the sound stage to sing another song for us. Go ahead. Thank you so much for sharing your story. BJ is now devoted his whole life to that decision that he made so many years ago when he decided to become a follower of Jesus. And he sings about it. He's going to sing another song for you now. Here again, once again, is BJ McKelvie.
Through life, I've always done it my way, using you when it suited me, pretending to be a Christian soldier. And through it all, you've still forgiven me. I hear the call to answer all. You are the maker, and I am just a man. Lord, accept me as I am. El Shaddai, oh, the great I am. I'm on my knees, clinging to the cross. I surrender, accept me as I am. Oh Lord, accept me as I am. My life, I'm counting all as lost. I pray, dear God, forgive and cleanse my heart. I surrender, accept me as I am. I surrender. Through grace, you only see my beauty. When I cry out, you're there to comfort me. Oh, you are my rock, my fortress and my Savior. By your grace, we'll meet in eternity. I hear the call to answer all. You are the maker, I am just a man. Oh, Lord, accept me as I am. El Shaddai, oh, the great I am. I'm on my knees, clinging to the cross. I surrender, accept me as I am. Oh Lord, accept me as I am. My life, I'm counting all as lost.
B.J. McKelvie out of St. John, New Brunswick. Go to our website and you can get the information there on his ministry. Every church should hear this story. You get it just bite sizes here. But when you have these artists come to your church, you really get the full impact of their ministries, and I encourage that. As he was sharing earlier with Rhonda about this darkness and so on, Jesus talked about it in Matthew's Gospel, about going into outer darkness, those who do not know the Father. This is not some small child of a question that we deal with here day in and day out at Huntley Street. This is heaven and hell. It's life and death spiritually. Because you will be alive when this body is put in the ground. The spirit man lives on, but where? That question needs to be answered. Jesus made a statement in John's Gospel, chapter 3 and verse 19. He says, "This is the condemnation, that the light has come into the world, and men loved darkness rather than light, because their deeds were evil." Who is this light? Jesus. The Bible says he is the light of the world. And Peter picked up on this man that hadn't always walked with the Lord, but when he came into relationship with Jesus, everything changed in Peter's life. And later on he wrote 2 epistles, and one of them was one of the statements in the first epistle, chapter 2, verse 9. He says, "But you are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, his own special people, that you may proclaim the praises of him who called you out of darkness into his marvelous light." Do you know that light of truth, that light of experience that comes through the grace and the love of Jesus? Men and women are there on those prayer lines, and every day they're talking to people about Jesus. Every day hope is being discovered in the lives of hundreds of people across this nation. Why don't you be one of those and give Jesus that chance to let the light of his love shine in to where sin brings darkness? Would you do that? Call on him. He loves you. He'll hear you. Reynold, Rhonda?
Thank you so much, Norm, and we appreciate you, and we care about you here through 100 Huntley Street, and that's been shown through those prayer lines for so many years. 1,000 people a day are calling in, and we continue to be here for you. Thank you for your support of this ministry as well. Well, this summer is that big event taking place that David Damien was talking about to Ron, and we were all listening, called Consumed. Here's the information again. Be a part of it. I know Kathy and I are going to be there. We're going to bring our children. We don't want to miss it. August 24 through 26, and that's Edmonton, Alberta. There's a phone number there you can call for more information, 1-780-962-9333, or go to the website at consumed, that's with a D, .org, and you get all that information, and it is going to be a time, great celebration, and really the focus is family coming together. There's going to be a lot of great contemporary music as well for the young people. It's going to be an awesome time.
Do you know, it is beautiful to find an event like that where the whole family can enjoy that. I know that's the direction that the entertainment industry is trying to go in with some mixed success, but it's beautiful when you have an event like that where there is something for everybody, from the very young to the much more mature. I won't say old, more mature.
Yep. So, if you can get out there, do so. And just remember that we're here for you. Those phone numbers are available even as we go off the air. God bless you.
God bless.
Bye now.
If you live in or are visiting the Burlington area, we invite you to visit the Crossroads Center. This program is funded by the generous support of 100 Huntley Street viewers. For membership information or for further ministry, visit our website at crossroads.ca or write Box 5100, Burlington, Ontario, L7R 4M2. Closed captioning provided by Vertman Cookies. On the next 100 Huntley Street's Full Circle, meet author and